So today I'm super excited to have with me Stacey Brown Randall. She is the multiple award-winning author of Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. That sounds great. And host of the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast and a national speaker. She's worked with a lot of big companies, but also she really focuses on small business owners and even solopreneurs, including folks like HM Properties, O'Connor Insurance Associates, Keller Williams Real Estate, big folks here in Austin, and many, many more. She's been featured in national publications like Entrepreneur Magazine, Investor Business Daily, Forbes, CEO World, and so on and so forth. But that's actually not why Stacey's here today. She's here because I heard her on another podcast, and I was thinking, why didn't I have this advice decades ago when I was starting my consulting business and I was completely dependent on getting referrals and word of mouth for business and had no idea how to do that. So anyway, Stacey, welcome to Sales for Nerds. What do you have in your glass?
Thank you so much for having me. And we're down to the nitty gritty here in the Brown Randall household. So I have the second to last Coors Light.
Uh-oh. Well, hopefully this is a one beer interview because otherwise we're really pushing the edge.
And my husband will be very disappointed that all of his Coors Lights are gone. But,
right.
I happen to like them too. We're out of Corona, so I'm having a Coors Light.
No pun intended. There's no Corona in your household. All right, that's good to hear. So I've got some Sojourn Pinot Noir from San Giacomo Vineyard on the Sonoma Coast. This is much fancier than I usually drink, folks, but I'm kind of like, I'm just desperate and I'm going stir crazy. And I was like, why not have just a nice bottle of wine? So anyway, Stacey, welcome, and tell us a little bit about how you got to be an expert in referrals. That's kind of a niche within a niche within a niche that everyone wants to know more about, but you're the first expert I've met in this area.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about how I landed, right, to be able to have this conversation with you today is it took a business failure, sheer necessity, and the grace of God that actually put me where I am today to be able to have this conversation with you and your listeners. And the truth is, I started a business, much like most people who start businesses. I was really good at being an HR consultant, and my specialty was in generational diversity and employee engagement. Done it with a company. I can do this on my own. Went out on my own. 4 years later, that business would fail. It wouldn't matter that KPMG and BDO and Ally Bank were clients of mine, and I was published in Accounting Today or interviewed on Bloomberg News. 4 years later, that business would fail. I would join the Business Failure Club. I have my membership badge in that club, not looking to be an officer, not looking to be the president, so I'm not interested in a second business failure. One is enough. Don't want to go through that again. And so I actually had to go back to corporate America after that business failed. And I took that time, well, first to take care of my ego, the bruising that my ego took. And, business failures are really just tough. They're financially tough, they're emotionally tough, mentally tough, but the hit to your ego is probably the hardest part to bounce back from. Had to go back to corporate America, had to get a job. When I was there, I was like, okay, what did I do wrong? And I got to get out of here. So what I'm going to do next, and how do I make that successful? And while I was in corporate America, I got certified as a productivity coach. Turns out I'm really good at that stuff. And so I started about 15 months later, I left my corporate job. So I wasn't there that long, about 18 months, 18 months. Left the corporate job, started a coaching practice with one client that came with me from when I was kind of like coaching them on the side when I was working in corporate America, and grew a coaching practice very quickly because I figured out what I didn't know with my first business that led to its failure. I figured out how to make some things happen differently with my second business. And one of the things I figured out was how to start generating referrals, but I didn't want to ask for them. I didn't want to pay for them. I didn't want to be cheesy and promotional and gimmicky. So I figured out kind of guinea pigging on my own business and my own coaching practice, how to generate referrals. Had a lot of success. My first year as a business coach, I was a productivity and business coach. I brought in 112 referrals without asking. I've hit over 100 every year since, and did that for a couple of years. And finally, my clients were like, you're a great productivity coach, but I really want to learn how you're doing this referral thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So as I started teaching it to my clients, I realized, oh, look at that. It's 5 steps. I do the same things over and over and over again. And this is how, and knowing the human dynamic and the psychology and my mindset and my philosophy, this is how I make it happen. Now here we are 7 years later, teaching hundreds and hundreds of folks all around the world. We're actually just had a student join our program, Growth by Referrals, in our 9th country just last week. We had an attorney from the Bahamas join, which is pretty awesome. So we help people all over the world, and I just teach them the process of how to generate referrals without asking, and that's become my main focus.
Okay, awesome. And I want to get into that, and I'm sorry to drag you all the way back, but I have to ask a question about that first consulting business. You had these great clients. Why did it not work out?
Why was I such an idiot? Is that what you're really wanting to ask?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering, was it the same way? I was an idiot. Is it a different kind of idiocy?
Well, they do come in many forms, right? Being an idiot does come in many forms. So for me, I landed every client that I landed, even those big name clients I was talking about, really through a lot of hustle and a lot of networking. And at the time, I had 2 small children. We would later go to add a third to the mix. And when I started my second business, all that hustling and all that networking and all those rubber chicken lunches and dinners and the 7 million cups of coffee that happened every morning, and networking and hustling so much, I just worked entirely too hard for every client I did land. And what would happen is that I would land a project with KPMG or Ally Bank or whatever it was, or I would go speak at this conference where I'd be paid to speak, and then it would be done. And I would look up and be like, well, there's nothing else, right? So I started on that entrepreneurial roller coaster where I would get the work, I would put my head down, I would do the work, and then I would look up when the work was done, and there'd be no more projects on the horizon, and I'd be back to hustling for the next client. And that's okay. I mean, truly, I think every business should start that way. That hustle, to get out there, figure out your sales process, figure out what works for you, figure out where you're going to bring in your clients. There's a part of that that should happen. But I was still on that same roller coaster, feast or famine roller coaster, 4 years later. And that wasn't going to be able to help the business survive. And it wasn't manageable at that perspective. In terms of everything I had going on with life and the clients I was bringing on board, it just didn't hit the scalability factor I needed it to hit to survive. And so eventually I just had to throw in the towel. And I started my business back at the end of 2008. And the hard thing about that is I can't even blame the recession, because 2009 and 2010 were 2 of my best years. Now, granted, I was smart. I was focused on the accounting world, which has a tendency to weather financial downturns a little bit better than other industries. So I got lucky in that regard. But for me, 11 and 12, 10, 11, and then 12 before it was kaput were actually my hardest years. And it really was. I did not figure out how to fill the pipeline consistently with prospects that I could eventually turn into clients. And I was in feast or famine, hustle, looking for new clients all the time.
That sounds a lot like my consulting life. And I had all these great aspirations to continue business development while client work was going on. But especially when you're on the road 4 or 5 days a week and you're tired and jet lagged and exhausted from the client stuff, it's hard to make the business development happen. So what did you learn in the interim that enabled you to relaunch a new practice and get over 100 referrals that first year?
So what's interesting too, it's not only that we're exhausted from the client work, but we also aren't amazing salespeople. We're really good technicians. What? I was a really good HR consultant, right? I knew my stuff. When I got brought in or when I stood on a stage and presented, like I was going to do a good job and it was going to be well received. And because I was good at the thing, right? It's like Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. Mm-hmm. Like I was good at being the technician. It was the learning how to be the business owner, and not even the business owner piece, but the sales piece that was harder. And the crazy thing is I actually have a background in sales and marketing. Like my corporate life before starting my own business, I have a background in sales and marketing. So having a conversation with someone and closing them into a client wasn't really ever my problem. It was getting to the conversation to be able to have with them. That was my issue. So knowing that, so looking back at my business that failed, that could have and should have been successful, though I'm so very thankful it wasn't, because it definitely sent me on the journey to land where I am today. And I like this topic of referrals so much better than employee engagement and generational diversity. At some point, I just got tired of talking about the millennials. I was like, I want to talk about them anymore, right? So, a lot of this was figuring out something that the passion can last longer than just a couple of years. But really for me, when I look back, it was the main lesson I learned that I applied to business number 2 that business number 1 never had was, how do you touch business development every day? But the kicker is how do we touch business development every day in a way that we are willing to do it every day and get results? So when I looked at, well, I know how to network, but please shoot me. I don't want to do that every night. I've been doing that, and I've got small children, right? Eventually we would add another one. And so it was this idea of like, I don't want to do that. How else can I generate clients? And so you start looking at other sources, other potentials. And it was me. There wasn't a big budget for advertising, and I wasn't going to, travel around and attend a bunch of trade shows. And so you start looking for other ways to bring in clients. And I was like, why not referrals, right? I was like, I need to get some referrals. And then I looked back at my first business and I was like, oh my gosh, I never got one referral the entire time I ran that business, except for 2 years after I had shut it down. I got my first referral for the business I shut down 2 years before. So what I realized is I want this referral thing. And it literally just kind of came to me like, why did I fail? It's really about this business development, filling the pipeline thing. Well, what's the easiest way to do that so that I know it'll work and it doesn't keep me networking every night or stalking people on LinkedIn, right? And it keeps me without having to have millions and millions of cups of coffee every year. And so I looked at it, I'm like, well, wait, referrals. Yeah, of course. Let's get some referrals. I do good work. I deserve referrals like this. Yes. Then realized, well, I didn't get any. So maybe I don't know how. So then I started doing the research. I was like, okay, all-knowing Google, tell me, how do I get referrals? What does this look like? And the same advice I kept getting from the books, from the sales training, from the articles was ask. If you want referrals, ask. And if you don't want to ask, that's okay, then go pay. And if you're not willing to pay, be promotional or cheesy. And I was like, but I'm a professional. And the way I want to present myself to the marketplace isn't with a bag of goldfish that I'm going to give you with a note on it said that I'm fishing for your referrals. And I didn't want to.
Was that actual advice from one of the articles?
It was not in one of the articles. It came from some other advice that the real estate industry gets a lot of those bad advices.
But that was an actual thing that they were saying, this is a quote unquote best practice.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. The other one is send a packet of extra gum and say, I'll go the extra mile for your referrals.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Super cheesy, right? Or why don't you just put in your email signature, the best compliment you can give me is a referral? Well, duh. And that's super cheesy to me too. Like there was just the way I wanted to present myself in the marketplace and the professionalism that I wanted to be seen as and the character and the branding and just the reputation I wanted didn't include any of those things. And you know what? It's not in me to sit across from you and be like, hey, I know we just met, but who are 10 more people like you who should be doing business with me? Will you refer them to me? That didn't fit for me. And paying commissions or kickbacks where the person being referred didn't know that the other person was getting compensated, that didn't work for my moral character. So what I was faced with was all this advice about how to get referrals. It was like, ask for them, pay for them, be promotional or gimmicky, or if you won't do those things, well, leave it up to chance. And I was like, none of those work. And so the more research I did on how to get referrals and getting the same advice over and over again, what I started to realize was that there's a human dynamic and a psychology behind how and why referrals happen. And when I started pulling those levers in my business, that's when the referrals started happening. So I just started pulling the levers more, right? And those things started happening. And then I realized that it's really this process, but it comes from a place of wanting to take care of the people who refer me. Mm-hmm. Being referable is, of course, above and beyond, most important. But then wanting to take care of the people who refer me because they keep me from networking every night and they make it easier to grow my business, right? So wanting to take care of them, but also understanding how I wanted them to think about me from that referral perspective, right? And so what I realized is I was guinea pigging these things in my own business and having success. Very quickly, I realized when I had to start teaching it to others, it's a process. It's a 5 steps. It's here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then as I've watched my students do it over and over and over again, it's come down to there is another way. If you want to generate referrals without the asking, the paying, or the being promotional and gimmicky, and you don't want to leave it up to chance, still the same amount of work involved, but I'd rather do my referral plan than stalk people on LinkedIn or spend every night of the week, eating a rubber chicken dinner or lunch.
Right, and especially for those of us, like I have the same problem you do. I've got kids to take to ballet practice and soccer practice and whatever, and I can't even get to the rubber chicken dinner, whether or not I want to,
true.
right? And I certainly can't make it consistently enough to make that pay off. So at this point, I'm on the edge of my seat. I think people listening are on the edge of their seats. Just tell us what the 5 steps are.
Yes, let's just dig in. Okay, here's the thing. My disclaimer to these 5 steps are: 1, I'm assuming you do great work, so I'm assuming you are referable.
Great. I think, and if you can't, fix that first, right?
Right. And people are like, well, what if I'm not sure? And I'm like, well, I have this program called Sticky Client Experience. That's the second book I'm working on right now. When it comes out, read it.
Right.
We'll see if you need to fix that problem. People don't refer. Of course, they don't refer crappy work, but what people don't recognize is they don't refer choppy experiences or choppy work at all either. So people kind of miss that piece. So it's not just about, you may be ethical, but what is the experience your clients are receiving? Because that was what builds your brand, reputation, and buzz factor in the marketplace. So number 1, I'm assuming you are referable. And so number 2, I'm assuming you've actually received some referrals. I don't care if it's 1 or 2, but the 5 steps start from a point of you being referable and having proven that by receiving at least a couple or more referrals. For those people who are like a year in business and you don't have any referrals, or you've been in 7 years and you don't have any referrals, there's a different place we have to start from these 5 steps. We almost need to go like -1, -2, and then catch up to the step that we're going to start with. So those are my 2 disclaimers. You've received referrals before and you are actually referable. If that's the case, step 1 is that we're actually going to identify our referral sources.
Okay, and I hate to do this because I'm really like, I am on the edge of my seat, but I want to make sure I'm understanding properly what a referral is. Is that something that leads to business? Is it someone mentioning you somewhere else? Let's define for everybody, what is a referral? What do we mean by that?
That's perfect. That's such a great question. So here's the thing that's most important for people to understand. A referral is different and its own type of lead gen source or its own type of prospect. Just like every other type of prospect that comes into your business is attached to a source, a referral is a standalone on its own. A lot of times people will confuse word of mouth buzz, introductions, and warm leads with referrals. Here's what referrals have that those other terms don't. Number 1, there's always a personal connection. You are always personally connected from one person that knows the prospect that's going to connect them to you, and that's where the trust is transferred. So your referral source knows the prospect who has a problem. They know you can solve it, so they refer that person to you. They connect that person to you. That's where the trust is transferred. The second thing a referral always has is a need has been identified, which means the prospect is in buyer mode. I got a problem. I talked to my buddy about how to solve it, and he said I got to go talk to Ruben, right? Like there is a need identified. I know why we're meeting. When I ask people, like, why do you want referrals? The common responses are easier to close, quicker to close, less price sensitive. They show up already trusting me, ready to get to work, right? That happens because there's a personal connection, transfer of trust, and a need identified. The buyer is actually a buyer. The prospect is actually a buyer in buyer mentality mode. So that's different from word of mouth buzz. Word of mouth buzz is you being like, hey, Stacy, I was talking to a buddy of mine, totally needs work with their referrals. Don't worry, I gave them your information. They'll follow up. Thank you for identifying a need in some person. I don't know who it is, but because I wasn't connected, it's just word of mouth buzz. Don't get me wrong, word of mouth buzz is great. I just want you to be in the driver's seat to be able to follow up with whoever this mystery person is so that it can actually have the potential of becoming a client. So when a word of mouth buzz shows up, I want you to know it. Hey, it's so close to referral, but it's not. What's missing is personal connection. So you know how to respond to your referral source and be like, hey, can you connect us? Right? Same thing with introduction. Introduction is, hey, you guys should meet. Yay, go grow your network. Go get some coffee, right? Like, but is there a need? Or are we just truly introducing each other to be introduced, which is fine, but don't call an introduction a referral if there's no need identified and so you don't know why you're meeting with the person. And warm lead is just simply, hey, I know this company needs what you do. Here's the contact name and here's the number. And whether you can use my name or not is actually irrelevant because there's no connection and there's no real need identified that we know of because the referral source didn't put their reputation on the line and connect you.
So the referral is kind of like at the center of the Venn diagram. You've got the personal connection, the staking of the reputation, really, the need, and the actual contact info.
Right, yeah. So when the connection happens, it's typically over email, right? It's the referral source sending an email and connecting, putting you on the email and the prospect on the email and literally connecting you together.
Okay, awesome. Sorry for that tangent. I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what we're talking about, and that was super helpful. Now, let's go back to step one. Sorry. I'll try not to interrupt again.
No, you definitely can. It's so funny that you said Venn diagram because I just had to help my sixth grader with that yesterday. So I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about because they all know and Google told me.
Right. All right. So we're assuming that we are referable and that we have gotten some referral just through random happenstance, and now we're ready to put your system into place.
Yes. So step one, it's probably what I would call the step that has the most work. But if you do it correctly, you only ever do it once. So that's my promise and my guarantee. So step one is really important. Do it once, don't have to do it again, but it will take you probably the most amount of time. And it just depends. If you have a CRM or some type of database where you collect the information I'm going to tell you need, this will be easy.
I have one to recommend, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you do, right? So the idea here is if you don't, then I need you to get yours, right? Or in the meantime, pull out a piece of paper and start listing out your clients. So step number one is to identify who are your referral sources. We reverse engineer this process by looking at it based on who are our clients and then where do they come from. And where do they come from is the source. And so it's not that they came through a Facebook ad, it's which Facebook ad. It's not that they came through a networking event, it's which networking event. It's not that they were referred to you, it's who did the referral. So in that database or that CRM you're using, I need to make sure that if you're going to capture that information there, we get that second layer of information. So a lot of folks, when they're looking at it, again, and I'm sure yours is the same, you can kind of manipulate that stuff and be built how you need it to be. But I need it to say this person was referred by Stacy.
Yep.
Not that this person was referred, right? Or right. If for anything, for the source, I need as much data as possible because that tells me what's working and what's not.
Yep.
So when I look at my referral sources, if you have a CRM, this should be easy. You should push a button. It should spit out a report of all your clients and how they first heard about you, how they that referral source or whatever that source is. What you're going to do is eliminate everybody on that list that isn't referred to you. So what you're left with are the clients and who referred them.
Yep.
That then gives you your list of gold. And I'm going to make the argument that list is your business's biggest asset. Bigger
oh
than
my gosh. I'm so excited because I have a screen in my CRM that does exactly that. And I'm going to be like, hey, this is your biggest asset right here.
Yes. These are the people we care about. Clients matter. Your capital, all that stuff matters. This is your biggest asset because they help your business grow better. Now, this is only part of the story. If you're my gold star kind of student, then you're also going to go back into your CRM or a piece of paper, and you're going to list out all the prospects that didn't become clients. And you're going to pull their sources because the referral sources who send you prospects who don't become clients are just as valuable as those that send you prospects that become clients. And if you want a totality look at your referral sources, you got to pull both pieces of data. You got to eliminate anything that's not a referral source, put your clients and your prospects together, and look at all the referral sources. What that's going to tell you is a couple of things, and you'll have a couple of reactions to this list. You're going to look at that list, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I need more referral sources. That'll be one reaction. Number two, you look at the list and you'll be like, wait a minute. What do you mean Sam isn't on this list? Sam and I get together all the time. We talk business all the time. He says, I think he tells me all the time he referred me, but it doesn't show up at all. So you'll be like, I'm spending a lot of time with Sam, right? And not necessarily seeing any referrals from it, which could be fine or not. Or you'll look at the list and you'll be like, oh my gosh, Stacy's referred me 16 people over the last 3 years, and I haven't talked to her in 9 months.
Right.
So you'll notice who you're ignoring, who you're spending way so much time with thinking it's generating business, and it's not.
Yep.
And if you actually have enough referral sources to support any type of referral explosion in your business. And so from that data, then we can move forward with the rest of the steps. But particularly, when I talk about referrals, everyone's like, okay, just tell me how to build the plan. What's the plan going to look like? I'm like, the plan's irrelevant until we know who we're building it for.
Okay.
So once we have step one, again, my promise is if you go through this process, hopefully they have a CRM like yours. It'll be easy. If not, they're going to probably mutter my name and some bad words as we're going through the process because it can be really annoying. I've watched about 50% of my students come in and have to recreate this process. And it's all detailed in chapter 8 of my book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. So if you're going through this process and you naturally have questions and I gave you the high level overview, that chapter will detail it out. What does this look like, and how do we track moving forward, and that kind of stuff. So that's step 1. Step 2, step 3, and step 4 kind of go together. Specifically, step 2 will feel like it's out of place, but it'll make sense in a second. So we know who our referral sources are. Step 2 is now, every time you receive a referral, I need you to get into the habit of handwriting a thank you note. Gift card does not need to be included. Don't you dare put your business card in there. I don't care if your handwriting is terrible, write slower. You need to handwrite a handwritten note every time you receive a referral, because a handwritten note does a lot of things, but let's just keep it at this. Why should I send you more referrals if you can't thank me for the one I just sent you? Mm-hmm. That's the question I want you to be able to answer in your referral source's mind by sending them a thank you note. So I need you to build like this automatic, if then this happens, if I get a referral, then I stop what I'm doing, or within 24 hours I stop what I'm doing, or my assistant yells at me within 24 hours and makes me handwrite that thank you note. No, you can't have a third party do it for you. No, you can't have your assistant write it for you. If you're the one receiving the referral source, or your salesperson's the one receiving the referral, I need that person handwriting the note.
And as somebody who kind of was made to write thank you notes to my relatives when I was a kid, and then kind of didn't see anyone else doing it, I fell out of that habit, and I got back into it. And I think it's very effective because few people do it. But the other thing I noticed is I was worried about feeling cheesy, but taking that time, especially when you have horrible handwriting like I do, to actually be grateful, right? Because as you're writing, you're not just like typing. For me, you're like scrawling stuff out in hieroglyphics. Like, I'm so happy that Stacy sent me this person. This is so cool. I really want her to know that I appreciate this. You just feel awesome. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, it's what's interesting is thank you notes obviously make us feel better because of what happened, but it also conveys that this person is more valuable than they would think they would be, because when you handwrite a thank you note, you equate time to it.
Right.
Wow, I was worth Ruben's time to actually sit down and write a thank you note. Anyone can send an email. I'm going to be honest, anyone can send an email or a text message or make a phone call, but to pull out a piece of paper and handwrite on there that you're thankful for who I referred to you, that's going to matter. And a thank you note does a second thing people always overlook. They're kept. Not forever, but they're kept. And they're read when they arrived, and then they're put on a desk and a cork board up on a wall, right? And then when they're moved to go to the trash can or a box where they keep things like this forever, they're read again. Mm-hmm. So you have this opportunity to remind them again, oh, that's right, I did refer Stacy. Look at that sweet note I got back for doing that. It's all about what we're going to start talking about in a second, which is planting referral seeds. It's how they think of you. So we know who our referral sources are. We're really good at doing what our mom has taught us and handwriting a thank you note after every referral received. But what do we do in between receiving referrals when we are sending those thank you notes? Well, what we need is a year-long plan. And this plan needs to be outreach that we're going to do for our referral sources to cultivate a better, deeper relationship with them, which means we're going to pick these touch points. We call them touch points. You can call them outreach. I don't care what you call them, but we're going to pick these touch points of this outreach that's going to allow us to be memorable and meaningful and to stay top of mind while giving us an opportunity to do step 4, which is plant referral seeds, so that not only are we taking care of our referral sources and coming from a place of gratitude, at the same time, we're also shifting how they think about us. So we're thanking them and showing gratitude for them being, in the a referral source of our business, while we're able to plant referral seeds. So that's how they think about us. It doesn't sound complicated. Like at first you may be like, well, I don't know what my outreach should look like, and I can give some ideas. But the truth is, this stuff's pretty simple. When my students learn it, they're like, oh my gosh, I get it. I understand how this works and how these pieces fit together. The thing is it may not be complicated. It's definitely not complex, but it still takes your execution. Okay. It still takes you doing it to make it work. So what I want you to have is every year, wash, rinse, repeat is my preference. Maybe you change up some things just to, entertain yourself, but you're going to have these touch points that you do somewhere between 4 and 8, depending on what you do, depends on how many you need to do for your referral sources. What this is not, it's not your e-newsletter. That is part of your marketing plan. That is not a part of your referral plan. So it's not your e-newsletter. It is not your drip campaign, right? It is not you putting your logo on a koozie and sending it to them. That's the client experience stuff you do, not the referral source stuff you do. And you don't have to do gifts, but if you're going to do a gift, please do not put your logo on it. Promo swag is not going to work. So those are the things it's not. What it is connecting with your referral sources. And what's really cool, but people don't ever pay attention to, your referral sources have way more in common with each other than you think. So you can actually pick one idea and do it for all of them. And then do it 4 to 8 times a year, so that there's a consistency, right? There's an ability for you to continue to thank them for the referrals they sent. And there's language that matters here. You don't want to overdo it or be overly cheesy, because that defeats the purpose. But we're coming from a place of authenticity and gratitude and thankfulness. We're doing this outreach, which is giving us an opportunity to plant more referral seeds and take care of our referral sources, which impacts how they feel about us. And when we feel good about somebody and like they've helped us, we typically want to help them back. We're kind of giving them direction through our language that that's referrals, but we never say, give me more referrals, keep those referrals coming, I can't wait for your next referral. That's like danger land. We don't go there at all. It is all from a place of gratitude and authenticity.
So what might be an example of this kind of outreach?
All right, so this is one of my favorite examples to share. It is a gift, but I need everybody to hear me. If you don't have a budget, you do not have to do gifts, but I'm going to use this as an example because I know in our mind's eye we can all visualize what this is if I talk about it from the gift perspective. So when I was a business and productivity coach, one thing I noticed, because I knew who my referral sources were because I identified them, right, and reviewed the list every year, I looked at who my referral sources were and I was like, wow, look at that. 80% of them are business owners who are also parents. So I made a decision out of my 4 to 8 touch points I was going to do per year. I was going to recognize Mother's Day and Father's Day. Who expected to hear, right, from the productivity and business coach for Mother's Day and Father's Day? So what I did on Mother's Day is I sent each of my top referral sources. So the more referral sources you have, sometimes you have to level them out from a budget perspective or just a management perspective. So I took my top referral sources and I sent them each a Wonder Woman water bottle for Mother's Day. And the card was really simple, like never forget you are a hero kind of stuff, right? But it was meaningful and it was memorable to each woman who received that water bottle. It's not like they needed to know everybody else was getting one too. It was specific to where they were in life, whether they were a grandmother or a mother of a newborn. It didn't matter. And so it was meaningful and memorable because it met them where they were. It's like, hey, I see you, right? And it gave me an opportunity to take care of them. And when you do these things consistently, your referral sources get it. They know, wow, Stacy really values me. They don't always say, it's because I send her all these referrals, but that is subconsciously how they think about you because that's the language we're using. So that's just one example. There's lots and lots of different types of examples from that perspective. But it's the idea here of what I'm doing is going to come. So here's the thing. This is only going to work if you actually are genuine and you actually are thankful for your referral sources and you are thankful for their referrals. This will not work if you were dead inside and you're in a take kind of mentality. So let me be really clear. This is the giver's gain mentality and knowing that you're taking care of the people who take care of you because you should want to. They deserve to be taken care of because they make your life easier to grow your business.
Now, does it matter if these referral sources are mutual referrals, like I'm sending them people too or not?
It doesn't matter at all. Actually, it's a one big thing I'm really big on is that referrals, this isn't like looking at it from like that tit from tat perspective, like I give to you, so you give to me. Those relationships happen and that's great, but you should never feel like the only way you can reward a referral source is with another referral. And an example of that is when I was a business coach, I would get a ton of referrals from financial advisors because I was a business coach. And so they would refer me their business owners who needed help and they have a vested interest in those business owners doing better. And so of course, that's why I got referred to them. And the reality is, I didn't know enough people with money for all the financial advisors that sent people to me. I was never going to give referrals back to those financial advisors. And they wouldn't all fit, right? It wouldn't have mattered. But it was never like that. I never felt guilty or worried that, wow, they're going to be upset with me because I didn't refer them back because I was taking care of them in a different way.
Okay.
And so it was never about, I've got to give you a referral back. If you have a relationship with someone where you guys do refer each other back and forth, that is great. That's wonderful. It is not a requirement or an expectation for this to work.
Got it. Okay. So what step are we on? Was that step 4?
Yes, we're on 5.
All right.
This is the easiest step. Kind of, sort of. So you know who your referral sources are. You know how to write a thank you note when you receive a referral. You've got a plan in place to take care with this outreach to your referral sources, to take care of them, giving you the opportunities to plant referral seeds. The last thing you need is a process. You need to be able to turn this into a process so that it actually just becomes your workflow within your business. The consistency and your execution is key, because if it's a Mother's Day gift, right, it can't go out on July 31st. It's got to meet the expectation of how you set your plan. And there's a cadence to how these 4 to 8 touch points actually work together. So that's really important from the execution part. So what you need is a process. You need to be able to automate what you can, delegate, outsource, systematize what you can. The idea here is it's got to become a workflow process within your business so that it gets done. So that is always the 5th step, is making it a process so that experience can happen for your referral sources.
Okay, great. So just to recap, we've got identify who these people are, right? Which seems so obvious, and how many of us have done that? Make sure you're sending them thank you notes. Also highly recommended and really not that hard. Have an annual plan. Know when you actually have to do the stuff you have to do and actually operationalize.
Use the right language. Yep, and use the right, so have the plan, plant the right language, the referral seed language, and then create a system around it.
Okay, maybe I'm not understanding exactly what we mean by referral seed language. What I know not to say the greatest compliment you could give me is a referral, but what should I be doing?
Okay, so that's such a good question. Let me give you a really practical, tactical one that everybody can hear and then use. All right, so the next time you receive a referral, there's actually a very specific language I tell people to put in the thank you card. And so the idea here is, so the language I would tell you to put in your touch points is really dictated by what your touch points are. That plan you create, your 4 to 8 touch points, what you're doing dictates how we use the language. But everybody uses the same language for the most part when we're handwriting thank you notes. Yes, you create, if you're writing the note for the 2nd or 10th time to the same person, switch it up, but this one sentence should always be in there, which is what we call the referral seed is thank by name. So thank you for the referral to, and then you insert the prospect's name that was referred to you, because that, we call that the thank by name, because that reminds them that who they referred to you. So that should always be in your thank you notes. It's a really easy, very direct, easily to remember kind of referral seed that you can plant. And it's the ability of reminding of what they did along with the rest of your thank you note. So it makes it really simple. Sometimes you don't need to plant a referral seed because we're doing this stuff consistently over a year. Sometimes there's a balance that's really important. But a referral seed is typically, sometimes it's direct or indirect, but it's the reference to what they've been doing, which are the referrals they've been sending you.
Which is really just being authentic. Like, hey, you referred me to Stacy. Thank you. Why wouldn't I just say thank you for referring me to Stacy?
You would think so, but people don't. But lots of people are like, I just say thank you for the referral. I'm like, I know. And if they don't remember who they referred you, it doesn't sink into their subconsciousness better.
And it's also weird. Like, that's not a human conversation. That's like a business BS conversation. Thank you for the referral. Your lover at IBM, right? Like, it just sounds terrible. But thank you for referring me to Stacy. That's what you would say to a friend who introduced you to somebody, right? Sorry, introduction is the wrong word. Who referred you to somebody.
Right.
I mean, it's like just stripping away the BS to what you would naturally do.
Yeah, and I think that's why the process works. I know that's why it was successful for me and why it felt really easy to teach it to other people, and it's easier for other business owners to put it into practice, because it comes from a place of being authentic, right? It comes from a place of being like, oh yeah, of course I want to take care of my referral sources. Why would it be crazy not to take care of my referral sources? This makes perfect sense. And then the question becomes, okay, now how?
Right.
What should it look like and how should I do it? And that's where all the pieces of the process kind of exist. But the reality of it is the concept, people are like, yes, this is something I should be doing.
But it's all very simple. Like, you don't have to be getting them the IBM box at the Staples Center or taking them golfing at Augusta or anything like that's great if that's within your budget and what you want to do. But you don't have to do that to make this successful. I'm guessing you didn't do that first year that you got 112 referrals.
No, not at all. And actually, everything was done on a shoestring budget. Those are actually my favorite plans to watch people build within my program, is like, hey, stop spending the money. Like, the heartfelt thanks can sometimes be all you need from that perspective. But again, it's still a process. It's still a system. And I've definitely done some things and I was like, wow, I've never spent that much money before to take care of my referral sources, but that was really cool. Like, that's not to say I haven't done things that are different. But yeah, I've never taken anyone to play golf. Well, I don't like to play golf, but I've never taken anyone, right? I've never felt like I needed to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to make this work, because that's not what people are interested in. What they're interested in is knowing and feeling acknowledged and recognized by what they did do,
Right.
and then taken care of by you. And we can do that a lot of times for free.
Right. Just with some time and some actual sincere care.
Right.
So just to get an idea, I don't need the exact number, but to generate those 112 referrals, how many sources did you have that first year, approximately?
Yeah, so it's such a good question, because people ask me all the time. They're like, okay, how many referrals do I need per year, and how many referral sources do I need to support that? And I always tell folks there's a formula that we think about from this perspective. And it really helps to understand it. You have to kind of look back in your data, which the step one helps this whole process from the formula perspective. But the number of referrals you need typically dictates the number of referral sources you need. Well, the number of referrals you need is dictated typically by your capacity for new clients every year, right? So in a business like mine, where I sell an online program and it's can hold and has the capacity for as many people as possible, right? Same thing I'm assuming with your CRM, right? Has the capacity for as many people as possible. It looks different in terms of our referral sources versus the accountant, right? Or the CPA or the business coach or consultant or the realtor, right? Or the financial advisor that's like, hey, I need 50 new clients. I need 12 new clients.
Right.
A lot of the attorneys that I work with are like, I need like 6 cases a year. I need 12 cases a year. So the number is dictated by your capacity for new clients. Do you need a dozen new clients a year, a couple of dozen, 100, couple of hundred? That'll dictate. And
Sure.
At some point you swing past referrals being able to be the key indicator, right? Referrals can be a piece, but it's not going to be the biggest piece. The lower number of clients you need, the bigger pie referrals should fill for you. So depends on how many new clients you need, dictates how many referrals you should want to get. So let's just say, for sake of argument, I need 25 new clients. I'm going to use really round numbers here because I don't do public math.
I love round numbers, yes.
Okay, and 25 is not round, so let's go with 30.
I was going to say 10.
Right, well, we'll just do 30. So
right.
I need 30 new clients a year. Right. If I'm looking at that, but my data tells me I don't ever average more than 10 referrals a year. So if I look back at 2017, 2018, 2019, we can't use 2020 because we're not in a full year. But if I look back at those 3 years and I average out the number of referrals received per year and I only get 10, but I can have 30 new clients, well, I get 10 referrals a year, and it's because I've got 6 or 7 referral sources. I know, well, to double my referrals right now, based on my data, I probably need to double my referral sources. So everything's built around this formula. So it makes it easier for people to understand how many new clients do you need? What's your average number of referrals over the last, I like 3 years. I think that's a good average. The last number of referrals received for over 3 years. And then if you took care of the referral sources you had and maybe have to add new ones, you could get to the number you want. So it really just depends on where you start with the formula and what your number looks like.
So to get like 100-ish, which I'll just take your 112, round to 100 because it's a round number, how many people should we expect that we need to refer us to get that?
Yeah, so I think when I was bringing in like that number of referral sources, so it definitely, I think it was just over 2 dozen. So I think we're in the 30 range. But that's because I had some referral sources that sent me double digits.
Right. And there's some kind of 80-20 rule going on here, right? Where some people are going to give, and that's where you having that report will kind of tell you, here's the real A-list.
Right. Absolutely. But so that's the thing. That's also as a business coach, right? 112 referrals. I mean, I only worked with 40 a year, right? So it just depended on how many I could fill, right? In terms of how many I could coach. So 100 referrals was actually way more than I needed. And I did a lot more turning away or putting on a wait list than I actually needed. But, starting out, I was happy to have that problem.
Right.
But
we're always happy to have that problem.
Yes. The more referrals you need, typically you need more referral sources, but there is always an 80-20 rule to who's going to produce what for you from a referral source perspective.
And I think the interesting thing is you didn't have, some mailing list of 2,000 people or 20,000 people to get those, right? You had those couple dozen personal connections that gave you those 100+ referrals.
Yeah, and I think the key there is that I was also a coach brand new in the business with zero reputation, and 0 successful case studies, right? So testimonials are the name of the game for most service-based businesses, and I didn't have any. But what I did have was the ability to really work on the relationship side. And then I realized the more outreach I did, but not like every week, every month, like that's crazy. But when I did outreach and I planted referral seeds, those were levers that would be pulled, and they built over time to where these referrals would come in. That's when I realized how the system for me was going to work. So it was, so think about it. No reputation, no credentials other than this certification I got while I was working in corporate America because I was trying to get a plan B and get out of there, right? So no reputation. I had contacts that did work to my advantage, but no reputation, brand new certification, no case studies, and 1 client to speak of. And yet I got 112 referrals because I knew how to really work with the relationships that I had. And because I'm authentic and I'm a human who cares about people, this was easy for me to do. Then when I started laying it, I called the referral seed piece my secret sauce because it was really when I figured that piece out that I was like, oh, look at there, I'm getting referrals and I'm not asking.
Right.
And that changed everything.
And it's funny because most of us, I think, we love getting referrals. We hate being cheesy, at least hopefully if you're listening to this show. And at the same time, we love giving referrals. We love making things happen for other people because we want to help. And I think it's sometimes we feel like, gosh, I would never want to assume that Stacy would want to refer me someone or Ruben would want to refer me someone. It's like, well, of course they would. They love doing that, assuming you have a genuine relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece that people overlook. Now, here's the thing. I would say nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks to themselves, how can I help Ruben grow his business today? No one does that about me. They don't do it about you. They don't do it about anybody. Right? They wake up thinking about their 5 million things on their to-do list, right? And so we have to recognize why referrals happen. They're not ever about us. They are never about us. But the trust that referral source has in us is critical to receiving those referrals. A referral happens because the referral source gets to be the hero by helping somebody who has a problem. You just happen to be the solution provider to that problem. So it's benefit and bonus that it grows your business, but don't ever think for a minute that you're receiving those referrals because they're trying to help you grow their business, help you grow your business. That's just a bonus and a benefit. It ultimately comes down to the referral source being a hero to somebody else who has a problem, and you're just the person they've decided that can solve the problem, which makes them the hero.
Love it. Perfect. How's that Coors Light treating you?
It is wonderful, and the second one will probably be gone at some point, and my husband will be very disappointed.
I could chat about this stuff for hours because this is fantastic. This is the kind of advice that I wish I had heard when I was starting my consulting business, and I think it's going to be tremendous for everybody. If you're not doing something like this, please go do it. And Stacy, where can people find you if they want to find out more?
Yeah, and thanks for saying that because I actually think my first business never would have failed if I had had this process then. So I truly believe, and if I can keep anyone from the Business Failure Club, I don't need any more members. We don't need you to join me. I think that would be great. But the best place to find me is my home base. It actually is my website, stacybrownrandall.com. Stacy has an E. What I would tell you though, if you really want to kind of like figure out where you stand with your ability to generate referrals without asking, like what's your level of skill and ability, I have this great 9-question quiz. It's called the Referral Ninja Quiz. It's going to put you at one of 3 levels of a Referral Ninja. And then you can learn about the gaps you need to overcome to get more referrals consistently. So it's on the website, of course, stacybrownrandall.com/quiz, or just go to referralquiz.com and it'll take you right to that quiz and you can take it. It's free. It's 9 questions. Really helpful for you to figure out where you are in this journey and to decide if you want to know more.
Awesome. Thanks, Stacy. And we'll have links to all that in the show notes. Cheers.
Thank you.